to other issues that are being handled within this World Summit on the Information Society. I would also like to express my sincere thanks that Mr. Miranov is ready to take on board these questions and will help us as moderator. So, Mr. Miranov, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that I shall raise only two questions, Mr. President, but they are also worth taking into account by His Excellency Minister Rahman, because they are for anybody. First of all, it has been observed that less and less young people go to the science, to the scientific research. It's a phenomenon all over Earth. What is Romania supposed to do? What should Romania do for pushing people to this part of the knowledge society? And the second question will be one which is very important for nearly all small and middle-sized countries. How shall we stop the brain drain in the field of science? Should we do that? Thank you.
I think the first question is connected with the big challenge of our days, which is connected with maybe two main aspects. First of all, there is the general approach. How easy it is to gain money. And not only the science is very attractive from this point of view. It is one aspect of the question. But for the countries like Romania, in the process of transition, with a lack of sources for financing the scientific research, which became more and more expensive, is also another handicap, how to provide and how to encourage and how to create the conditions for the scientific research. Both aspects are to be taken into consideration. I could say that in spite of these difficulties, there are some experience which could encourage us for the future, and connected mainly with these new trends, with these new technologies, and mainly the information technology. There are some steps taken by the Romanian government encouraging the e-learning and encouraging the people to go into these directions. And some of such experiences, some of them represented here in the exhibition on the information technology. For instance, the information laboratories in all the universities, and there is more than 1,200 schools and colleges which were provided with the necessary equipment and connected to the internet. It has created a climate of the interest for the young people to these trends in their intellectual approach, and I think it's a positive trend in the activity of the schools and the preparations of these people for their next activity. Of course, there is the second question, how to maintain these people, these young people, to promote more this activity inside the country, because there is a second aspect, the attractions of the rich world, which is creating more opportunities to the very well-trained young people. And we have this phenomenon. But it is, as I could see even in the developed, economically, socially developed European countries, this brain drain is a common phenomenon. A lot of people from Europe is going to the United States. From Romania, they are going to the European developed countries, but also to the United States. I could see even in Seattle, I have visited the campus of Mr. Bill Gates' company, and he saw that maybe the most important national group between a lot of nationalities working in the campus are the Romanians. So it is such a phenomena. Many people is judging that it is weakened our human resources. But I am regarding with certain hope for the future that these young people going to the developed countries and even in the United States, they remain connected with Romania. And I could see that the most dynamic sector in our activity now, for instance, the software industry, which is giving the more dynamic development of our economy. There is a lot of young people, young researchers going in such small and medium-sized companies, but they have in the same time a very active connection, interconnections with those colleagues, their colleagues, working in different companies in the United States, in Germany, in France, in Italy. So these young people going to such centers of activities, they became very good bridges and very active agents of our own companies, and they are helping from one side the activity of these new centers of such activities, and there is also the hope after some years most of them to regain the homeland, and they are coming with new experience, with new knowledges, with new trainings, with new vision, and which will help our further development. So we are regarding both aspects of this question.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If time allows, I'm not
Yes,
sure,
please.
I would open the floor if anyone from the floor would like to ask an additional 1 or 2 questions. Yes, please.
Do I need a mic? Maybe I can shout, yes. Your Excellency, I'm Paul Mazai, Secretary General of CODITA, and also Professor of Chemistry in Canada Memorial University. My question is the following. I understand there are major improvements and major advances in overall understanding of science. So we are really moving to our knowledge society, which is a wonderful phenomenon. At the same time, the average understanding, average appreciation of science, which has improved, is lagging way behind the forefront of science, perhaps more than ever before. And my fear is that unless we have a cultural change, a change in the culture to appreciate science by the general public in a more efficient way, we are not going to be able to reap all the benefits of that. And I wonder, how do you see it in the context of being leader of a country? How a country can move in that direction to have the public understanding of science keep pace with the tremendous speed by which the forefront of science is improving and increasing. Thank you very much.
Of course, you are right. There is another aspect concerning the democratization of the access. And there may be both aspects. The access to the information, and from this point of view, these new technologies and the network of telecommunications, the internet including, and also the more access to the necessary technology in this field is making more accessible for a large number of the people to the information. It is one. But it is maybe much more complex, the access to the knowledges, to the science, to the new achievements of the science. It is another aspect which is connected with the level of the education of a larger number of the people. From this point of view, I think we have not a very difficult situation in comparison with developed countries. We have quite a good school in Romania and quite a good tradition in our education, and the average level of the education of our young people is quite compatible with the developed countries in Europe. But of course we are facing with some economic and social difficulties now, and this period is, from this point of view, difficult for us to create the real opportunities for all to raise their training, their potential, and to include them in all this process of the overall development of the knowledges. It remains, of course, a question, a problem, and we are working in this direction to combine the preoccupation for the overall economic development, the improvement of the social condition of the people, and also to raise the level of the education of the people in the country.
Thank you very much. It's a worldwide problem.
It's a common enemy.
Yes, over here, please.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Cave. I'm from around Europe and the University of Warwick. You sketch actually a very exciting prospect, and I'd like to ask an opinion on an idea that your remarks suggest. Not all of science is at the cutting edge, and one of the problems with intellectual property rights and the winner-takes-all phenomenon is that the middle layer of science, that part that replicates the experiments, that verifies the quality of the knowledge, is somewhat hollowing out. And particularly in countries where the great majority of the people are far from the understanding of science, that transition is rather weak. And so what this suggests, if you combine this with the vision of, let's say, the Romanian or other countries' diaspora, countries where you have good students who can then be selected if they have a chance to demonstrate that they're good, at a certain point in their life they can become cutting-edge creative scientists. As they mature through their life cycle, then perhaps they can return and act as mentors. Certainly they can act to identify the ones who are good. And so it seems that the engagement with the developed world could work actually to the advantage of both sides if there were a sort of compatible and validated global scientific education initiative that they could feed into. And if the social norms of cooperation were such that we recognized and validated that middle level of science that keeps it from being just innovation and puts a little bit of scholarship in. So I wondered whether that would seem to be a positive prospect.
Yes, how to approach all these questions. It is a complex problem you have raised, and as I have underlined, this gap which does exist now between the developed countries and the underdeveloped countries. And if you are looking even Europe, not on the global scale, this problem, even in Europe, we have the same phenomenon. The gap between the countries of the western half of the continent and the countries like Europe, in the Central Europe or in the Eastern Europe. There is an historical process of these roots of such gap, but also the last decades which maintain this gap in the economic possibilities of our countries. So we have to take into account all these handicaps in all the programs concerning the economic development and the conditions, the opportunities to the people to maintain the necessary connection to the processes of developing the scientific training, the scientific research, to promote the science and to promote the applications of the science and of the new achievement of the science in the practical economic activities. Both represent big handicaps for us. First of all, the crash of the former system of the centralized state economy. It represented such a rupture in our economic and social lives, which has long consequences for many years. Even now, after 14 years, after in December '89 revolution, our GDP is less than in '89. So we have lost a lot. We have lost the time, we have lost the resources, and it is a big effort necessary to recover these rupees. And also the purchasing power of the population now is even less than in 89. It is one. And if you take these indicators, the GDP per capita, it represents in Romania about 1/10 of Germany, to say, one developed countries in Europe. The same concerning the purchasing power. In this condition, you can understand this big handicap to promote also such development connected with the high level activities in the science, and to raise in general the economic activity based on such new achievements. It's a real big handicap, and I think it's a common problem now for on the global scale. How to improve from this point of view the general climate and the general frame of the old market, because the market economy has a lot of virtues. It is sustaining those who have initiative, who have the entrepreneurial spirit, those who are fighting for the quality, for the efficiency, for the competitiveness, and so on. And it gave this dynamic of the capitalist developed countries in their development in the last decades too. But in the same time, the market economy has promoted the polarization. The polarization of the richness in the hand of the minority, and the poverty for the great majority. It is a real phenomenon today, even in our country, and from this point of view, the transition period, it's in some extent the repetition of the experience of the primitive accumulation of the capital. With this polarization as a very strong phenomenon. But we can see this phenomenon on the global scale. And the new technologies, the new development of the science, of the knowledges and of the information is a chance for the underdeveloped countries to have easier access to the knowledges and to make some progresses in more dynamic way. But what is the reality of the last decades? We are speaking about digital divide. Those who have knowledges has easier access to the knowledges, and those who do not have, because of their low level of economic development. So it is an actual problem and a general common problems of the all of today, and the main question is how to answer to this problem. These were the main questions raised in Monterrey and in Johannesburg. We do not have still the instruments, the tools to act in these directions. We do not have the necessary organizations on the global scale. We do not have any institution capable to intervene with some corrections, because they are necessary, the corrections to the rules of the old market in favor of those who are in need of underdeveloped countries. There does not exist such tools. And the existing organizations, IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, or labor organizations, they do not have such a goal. They do not follow such goals. They have other targets. So it is a question to be discussed, to find the solution. President Chirac has proposed to organize a sort of Security, Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Maybe it is not easy. It should promote radical change of the status of the United Nations. Maybe ECOSOC could play such a role. But for this, it should have such a target. And those organizations with economic activities, IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, or labor organization, to be put under the ruling of this institution, ECOSOC, to have the main target to act in this direction, to give the correction to the old market. Are they ready to do this? It is the decision to be taken, and I think it's a question which should become a preoccupation even for the rich countries, for those who are dominating the old market and who are imposing the rules of these markets. And they should be obliged to do this, otherwise we shall see the deterioration of the existing problems of today, with maybe the main phenomena, the big migratory waves of the poor people from the poor regions to the rich world. With Schengen new barriers, we cannot solve the problems. Or with military means or other administrative or other means, we cannot solve such problems. The solution should be done in the economic and social life to act against these disbalances on the whole scale. I think it is the main question, and we have to think about and to find together the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I understand we can allow for one more final question before His Excellency has to leave.
Yes, please. I am Patrice Lyons. I am an attorney from Washington, D.C. The other day I listened to the UNESCO program, and it was a very, very interesting program. And there was a discussion about the need to adapt the information to the local community needs, and also the need for voices to be heard so that the information could be expressed to other countries and that it wouldn't just be one-way street. There is also a tendency, and I went to the round table, to view the support from the World Bank and elsewhere for hardware, software, the wires in the ground, the infrastructure. Now, I've been a copyright lawyer for a lot of years, and I see a great deal of talk about open software, free software, but where are you going to encourage the young people to respect copyright and patents as a mechanism for them to earn a living? I'll give an example. I was at a UNESCO meeting last March, and there was a young man from Brazil there who said he had 3 PhD candidates who were writing software. Now, how do you keep those candidates paid and support their children if it's all going to be just given away? Now, this also could be part of the brain drain thing, where they would go somewhere else to get paid. So I think it's a mix, and it's an issue that I think needs to be put in this mix if this kind of activity is to be encouraged. How would you react to that in your situation, Mr. President?
Yeah, it's a contradictory needs and requests of our developments. We had a big debate on this with the Organization for the Intellectual Property. From one side, there is the need for the free communication, for the free diffusion of the knowledge, of the information, and to eliminate any barrier to this, and to make possible the free access to the knowledge. But at the same time, you are right, how to protect the intellectual property of those who are creating this new knowledge. These are two aspects of the problems. There are some answers with different legislations which were promoted, but still it will remain a question. How to protect, from one side, the sources of creativity and those who are creating the new knowledges, but at the same time not to create new limitations to the free spread of the information. I think it remains an open question.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to use this opportunity again, as His Excellency has to leave us, to thank him very much for this unique opportunity, I should say, to exchange views with him. Thank you very much again, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a series of presentations to highlight on various different aspects of the relationship between science, the information society, and the Millennium Goals. I would like to first of all give the floor to Professor Ataur Rahman, Minister of Higher Education of Pakistan. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. Let me begin with an apology. Those of you who have seen these slides a few days ago at the CERN meeting, some of them I'm going to repeat over here, so please bear with me. As I said at the earlier meeting, when President Pervez Musharraf of Pakistan invited me to be a minister, I am an organic chemist. I asked him one important question: are you serious about science? And his reply was, yes, of course I'm serious. And then I asked him, well, if you're serious, this should be reflected in the budgetary allocation of our government at the next budget. And, ladies and gentlemen, we ended up with a 6,000% increase for the budget of the Ministry of Science and Technology. And I think a real beginning for science in Pakistan was made. That was about 3 years ago. What I plan to do very quickly is to go through some of the slides of what we have done, especially in the area of information technology, and the roadmap to where we are going. So the next slide, after taking over some 3 years ago, we devised an IT action plan, a policy, but more importantly, a time-bound and money-bound action plan. And basically the components were that we would have to have a world-class infrastructure, that we would focus on quality of human resources, and for this the IT education would play a central role. We'll create the laws and enabling environment, and that it should act as a vehicle for service to the citizens. And for this, the internet had to be a key driver, and we started a variety of different programs in which are based on the universality of access, that you must have universal access to the internet in terms of quality and cost, and then you can use it for the delivery of education, telemedicine, etc. As I said, for this there had to be a political vision, and a separate Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunications was established, and a result-oriented action plan was initiated. Well, this is a map of Pakistan. We have fiber now running through the entire country, major fiber lines, 10 gigabits per second EWDM. And we have now, from 40 cities, we have increased the fiber access to some 400 cities, which are connected up towns and cities very rapidly. And this will be going to 600 in the next 12 months. 2 years ago, we had only 29 cities on the internet, some 3 years ago. And today there are some 1,600 towns, cities, or villages which have internet. Some regions are blank because there's nobody who lives there. They are just desert areas and non-populated. That's why those spots are not there. So and the UNCTAD report shows that we have now, we are 35% or 40% ahead of other countries in that part of the world. The bandwidth we increased because we had to create an infrastructure on which the entire IT had to ride. So that's very important to have good infrastructure. So huge increases in bandwidth, 32 megabit, now 600 megabit, and now it will be 1.2 gigabit in the next few months. So the pipes size was increased. The costs were brought drastically down so that it becomes affordable, from $87,000 or so per month for a 2 megabit line now down to $3,800 per month for a 2 megabit line, making us by far the cheapest. So a huge reduction in costs. And this has all contributed to a huge growth in internet usage from only 130,000 users to almost 5 million users presently. That's the ICT UNCTAD report. Mobile telecommunications also have undergone a huge explosion over the last year and a half, when the prices have gone dramatically down. So 500% growth, or even more than that actually. And a huge reduction in telecommunication costs, about 70 to 80% reduction in costs. And this has resulted in a corresponding jump of profitability. If you look at the bottom line, March 2000, 13 billion rupees, going up to 19.2 billion, and then 23 billion rupees. A huge increase in spite of the sharp reductions in the telephone rates. This, I think, is a very exciting program that we have initiated. We put up a satellite. This is a communication satellite with 34 transponders, both Ku band and C band. And we have a national network where we have connected the universities together. Some 40 universities are already connected together with fiber. And this was because we want to, like many other developing countries, we have shortage of faculty, highly qualified faculty, and we wanted to share the faculty members so that a lecture given 2,000 kilometers away can be listened to interactively by students and young faculty members across the country. And so, and this whole process will be completed, as I said, in the next 2 months. And we are putting up a huge digital library in place. It's 11,500 full-text journals and abstracts of 20,000 journals. And INASP in Oxford, Carol Priestley is here, has been very kindly helping us in this measure. And 4 new television channels, specifically for education, are starting up in the next few months. So this is a major information highway exclusively for universities that has been set up for distance learning, and this has been done under the platform of the virtual university which we established. The virtual university we developed our own hybrid model. So it's not totally distance learning. It is a model in which you have distance learning combined with actual interactivity with teachers. So we have, the virtual university has about 55 or 60 different, it's in 55 or 60 different cities. But there are about 170 tutoring centers where the students can actually go and talk to teachers and clear any concepts that they may not be clear about. This is a whole list of journals, online journals, which are in place, and this will be starting up in January. And this is a nationwide program. I believe we are the first, as I said, in the world to do this, to have a satellite for communication so that a lecture given at MIT or Harvard or Oxford or wherever can be listened to in Pakistan, that we have a national network connecting all the universities together, and a nationwide digital library. So every school, every college, every university, and every research center, irrespective of whichever ministry they come under, have free access to these journals. And all the money required is being paid for by the Higher Education Commission, by the Ministry of Science and Technology, which I also look after. We also have been aggressively using a lot of open courseware materials. For instance, the MIT open course lecture materials, all these were copied and distributed throughout the country to all the universities. The University of California Television offers excellent video lectures, and these are being used. And also there's a lot of material out there. The question is making it easily accessible. So if we were to just tell the universities, please use it, it requires a lot of high-speed bandwidth and accessibility, so we just copy a lot of this open material on CDs and we have distributed it to various universities. The virtual university is expanding very fast. It initially offers 4-year, it's the second distance learning university. We already have an open university, and that has about 500,000 students. This virtual university, the new university, is much more selective. It's a 4-year bachelor's program in computer sciences and now also program in liberal arts. And this will be looking after the new television channel that we are starting up. And there are several nodes across the country. And schools, colleges and universities will be benefiting from this program. The satellite that we placed in space we call it ParkSat-1, it will be used by the virtual university also for the educational TV channels. This is an interesting editorial headline on the left, published in the largest circulating British weekly, computer weekly, in which they said Westminster must follow Islamabad, and showed what we had done in the last 2 years. But I think one very important thing, and this relates to the question that you asked, which was how do we keep our young people within the country? And secondly, how do we attract the best people settled abroad back? So we are trying to address that issue very, very aggressively. What we have done in Pakistan is, first of all, to start major programs for increasing the PhD output. Pakistan produces about 200 PhDs in the sciences every year. This is being taken up to 1,500 per year over the next 5 years. And for that, the funds have been allocated. We've identified about 500 supervisors, and we are giving them research grants, and this is creating an atmosphere of research. We have started a foreign faculty hiring program, so people who are settled abroad, get them back, and the salaries that we are offering are about 10 times the previous salaries, the normal salaries for professors, about $3,500 a month, plus research grants. And a lot of people are showing interest to come back, because many of them, money is not the primary consideration. They want an environment where they can contribute. And already about 140 people have applied, and we are going through the selection process. We have a major program to send people abroad for training. And every year we are planning to send about 400 people abroad. 40 people went to Austria just 3 weeks ago, to China also about a month ago, about 50 people to Tsinghua and to Beijing University. To Germany, about 50 people are going in the next couple of months. And to Switzerland, we are planning to have 100 people by October coming to do PhDs in various Swiss universities, and of course the Scandinavian countries. So some between 300 to 500 people every year coming to top universities in Europe and getting doctorate degrees. And we have introduced lastly a very interesting system, a tenure track system of appointments of faculty. And this means a 5-fold increase in salaries. So with this new system in place, which is starting from this year, the salaries of a professor in a university on this tenure track system will be 4 times the salary of a minister in the government. So that is really the kind of thing that we are trying to create. That when a young man is doing his passing out from school and he wants to see what he's going to do in life, they normally go into business administration or management or medicine perhaps. They should give a thought to biotechnology or theoretical physics and so on, which they don't do, and other such areas. So creating career structures at the highest level in these universities, but these are performance-driven systems. So a tenure track system, a 3-year, there's a soft review and a hard review after 6 years. So either you can become permanent in that structure or you're out of a job. So an international evaluation process. And ways to increase allowances and salaries of people who are productive. So every year we are evaluating every single scientist and engineer in the country, and we are publishing books of who is doing what, where. So there is a table of evaluation, and at the moment this is based on the Science Citation Index, the number of times your work is cited by others, and secondly the impact factors in science journals published by the Institute of Scientific Information in Philadelphia. And now we have an even more complex, more comprehensive system in which we look at other factors as well. So this can lead to you getting a take-home pay which is 5 times your normal pay if you are publishing in the best in the best journals. The foreign faculty hiring program, a number of incentives including abolition of customs duties and a 15-year tax holiday to IT companies, and professional reduction of taxes for professionals, 50% reduction. So this incentivization. And this is just, I've already mentioned that, the tenure track system appointments. I'd like to conclude by giving a few specific recommendations. Firstly, we'd like organizations like UNESCO to negotiate nationwide access to electronic journals with publishers. Now, the publishers are there to make money, so obviously they don't want to give it away for free. But in most of the developing countries, there are only 1 or 2 or a few institutions subscribing to them. So if one can come forward with a system in which their pay is guaranteed, by the country concerned, whatever they are getting, is guaranteed with some additional money, say 10 or 20%, etc., but they provide a nationwide access to that country so that they don't lose money, then that could be one way of providing access across those countries without the publishers actually losing money. The second proposal is the sharing of knowledge through strongly funded subject networks, establishing networks in individual disciplines in physics and mathematics and chemistry, which could revolve around centers of excellence, and but they have to be strongly funded. So perhaps a partnering system in which the country concerned and UNESCO or some other organization could both contribute funds towards the materialization of such networks. The third recommendation is having a large number of grants being made available. We really have to, at an international level, at this forum, come forward with major grants. So if you're looking at the entire global scenario, some 20,000 PhD level scholarships is what's required. And again, this could be done on a matching grants basis. I talked about the MIT OpenCourseware and a magnification of that. So a policy whereby UNESCO and other international agencies get other universities, the University of Geneva, the universities in the UK and other countries, to emulate what the MIT has done in making this OpenCourseware available, so that we have a lot of this knowledge, free knowledge available and accessible to the developing countries. And lastly, and this is very interesting, a volunteer lecturers program. If one can start a program where we invite eminent academicians, eminent scientists to volunteer that their lectures may be recorded while they're giving lectures wherever they are located, and then be placed on websites for downloading across the world. If they are willing to do that, and many of them I'm sure would be willing to do that, many of the MIT professors have already done it, this would also mean access to top quality knowledge from a variety of sources. I would conclude by just saying this, that I think what we need to realize is that the greatest resource that our countries have is our children. It's the quality of education with which they are blessed, and our ability to tap into their creative knowledge through the challenging educational system that we can put in place. That is what is going to contribute to true socio-economic development. Thank you.
Mr. Rahman, I think you raised quite a few very important issues which we can take on board later on in the discussion. I think especially the recommendation to UNESCO, I think from a UNESCO point of view. I have the pleasure now to see with us in this round table His Excellency Mr. Adama Samasekru, who has been essentially preparing this World Summit on the Information Society. So welcome to the round table, Your Excellency. And secondly, I'm also pleased to have with us now Minister Lidia Brito from Mozambique for the further presentation later on. So welcome to the two of you. Our next speaker is Professor Jane Lubchenko, President of ICSU. As you all know, we work together with ICSU. We have a framework agreement with ICSU, UNESCO and ICSU. So I'm looking forward to your intervention. You have the floor.
Mr. Director General, Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to participate in this roundtable as the President of the International Council for Science. The ICSU family includes over 100 science academies around the world and many of the international scientific unions from chemistry to anthropology. The ICSU mission is to strengthen international science for the benefit of society. My remarks today focus on the role of science in the information society, and specifically the relationship between science and development. Publicly funded science has a central role to play in the development of the information society. Many of the fundamental technological components of the information society were discovered or invented in academic laboratories. For example, electricity, radio waves, the laser, the transistor, the World Wide Web, and the web browser. The next breakthroughs are already in the pipeline, for example with grid computing, a new form of distributed computing that involves coordinating and sharing computer power being piloted by the scientific community. Even more important, however, is the role that scientific knowledge plays as a driving force for social and economic development. The new information and communication technologies, ICTs, provide a unique opportunity to ensure universal and equitable access to scientific data and information, which would be a very major step in enabling all countries to achieve their development goals. In the opening line of his editorial, A Challenge to World Scientists, published in Science magazine in March of 2003, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan states, and I quote, "Science has contributed immensely to human progress and to the development of modern society," unquote. He goes on to acknowledge that, quote, "recent advances in information technology, genetics, and biotechnology hold extraordinary prospects for individual well-being and humankind as a whole," unquote. But the real challenge he put to the scientific community was, and I quote, "Your advocacy can help bring about a breakthrough in access to scientific knowledge," unquote. Taking up this challenge, ICSU, in partnership with CODATA and UNESCO, has identified 5 key topics that must be addressed for the information society to flourish and the MDGs to be met. These 5 topics are developed further in a set of 5 documents produced by ICSU and available just outside this room. These topics together address science and the information divide. The advancement of science is absolutely dependent on the provision, the analysis, and the dissemination of data and information. ICTs are revolutionizing the practice of science and vice versa. The World Wide Web arose out of the needs of particle physicists to share and analyze large amounts of data. The sequencing of the human genome would not have been possible without the rapid development of bioinformatics and the sharing of databases around the world. Much of the science is now conducted virtually, and there should be no reason why any scientist anywhere in the world who is equipped with a PC and reasonable internet access cannot make a significant contribution to scientific progress. However, the reality is that even where the hardware is available, scientific data and information in many areas are not universally available. IPR regimes, database protection legislation, and the cost of some scientific journals are all contributing to a very significant knowledge divide in science. The 5 topics that we develop in order to address this knowledge divide are as follows. Number 1, universal and equitable access to scientific knowledge. Strengthening the public domain for science and ensuring free and equitable access to scientific data and information are essential steps in the construction of an equitable information society. Access is dependent upon infrastructure, ensuring that all universities and research institutions have affordable and reliable high-speed internet connections within the next 5 years is a crucial and realizable target that the Summit should strongly endorse. Further to this, it is important to ensure the strengthening and enhancing of existing communication infrastructure to provide affordable access for all communities of scientific information users. However, Infrastructure alone cannot bridge the divide in access to scientific knowledge. International and national action plans must focus on human and institutional capacity building. Education and research institutions and others with expertise in ICT applications need to work together to develop training facilities, including specialist training in universal and equitable access approaches to information management. It is also very important to strengthen the successful and innovative programs that have already been implemented to promote equitable access to scientific information in developing countries. For example, ENASP and CODATA's efforts. Our second topic is decision-making and governance. Science plays a crucial role in identifying and analyzing the many challenges faced by society and in generating the knowledge to respond appropriately. Thus, reliable scientific data and information are essential to support good decision-making and policy development. This information is even more useful when it can be combined with other knowledge from other sources. Indeed, ICTs are transforming governance at many levels by facilitating the involvement of more actors. In order to have a reliable evidence base for decision-making, it is necessary to ensure long-term support in all countries for the collection of scientific data. In many areas, particularly those relating to environmental change or public health, long-term monitoring is essential to produce a useful data set. Critical data sets need to be established, maintained, updated, and made widely available. There is a need to carry out further research and development on new and more inclusive governance mechanisms at local, national, and international levels for the information society. ICTs provide new opportunities to include all stakeholders, including people from the communities directly affected, in policy formulation and problem management. Effective and efficient strategies for participatory research and decision-making should be identified and developed. And the role of the media as a critical and objective bridge between scientists, decision-makers, and the public needs to be nurtured. The third topic concerns policy issues for scientific information. Established policies related to scientific information focused almost exclusively on the enhanced protection of proprietary information, leaving the role of public domain information poorly addressed. In order to derive the greatest possible social and economic return on public investment, and in order to stimulate scientific progress, the scientific community, in collaboration with relevant institutional and national governments, must redress this balance. It is in the interests of society as a whole that our governments adopt policies to ensure that data produced from publicly funded research remains universally and equitably available. Such availability of scientific data avoids unnecessary duplication of effort, maximizes the return on public investment, promotes verification of research results, and stimulates scientific progress. Scientific data produced with public funding should normally be made available at no more than the marginal cost of dissemination and with no restriction. Where necessary, restrictions on proprietary data and information should be designed to maximize availability for academic research and teaching purposes. Scientists should be involved as major stakeholders in the information society in the discussion and development of intellectual property rights and copyright legislation at both the national and the international level. Number 4, improving education and training. Despite inequities in access, an ever-increasing amount of scientific information is openly available. Yet, without education and training on how to access and utilize it effectively, the potential benefits for society as a whole will not be realized. Further research into ICT-supported learning is vital. Science educators must understand how the use of ICTs relates to the learning capabilities of children. They should also recognize the importance of imparting how scientific knowledge is produced and how it differs from other types of information. Both students and the general public need to develop the skills to discriminate between scientific information of variable quality. Scientific literacy will be an increasingly valuable asset in our information society. ICTs can help the sharing of educational resources through the provision of open courseware that is freely available online to researchers, teachers, and students. Open distance learning, as well as global virtual libraries and laboratories, can be used to support scientific research and education worldwide. However, one feature of the World Wide Web that needs to be guarded against is the routine loss of information. Educational ICT materials must be archived to ensure that best practices are safeguarded and that valuable resources are available over long periods of time. And finally, number 5, optimizing knowledge in the information society. A knowledge society is a society in which the production and dissemination of scientific information and knowledge function well, and in which the transmission and use of valuable experiential knowledge is optimized. Experiential knowledge has often not been systematically validated or tested, but is nevertheless dynamic and is used by all of us in our daily lives. Experiential knowledge is in many situations an important complement to scientific knowledge. ICTs provide not only a good information repository, but also the infrastructure for knowledge dissemination, distance learning, and remote access. As such, they are valuable tools for the creation and expansion of virtual knowledge communities that bring together both scientific and experiential knowledge. Cooperation between scientific research and other knowledge holders must be encouraged. Citizens have expertise on many issues to fully address key priority areas for sustainable development: water, environment, health, agriculture, and biodiversity. The proven knowledge infrastructures, for example, libraries, archives, and museums, should be strengthened as a necessary complement to the web, and there is a need to create new economic rationale to support them. We need to develop research to improve our understanding of many issues related to the production, transmission, and effective use of knowledge. Very few countries have taken this challenge seriously. For example, relatively few young social scientists are developing the expertise or the experience necessary to address the complex challenges of ICTs in the knowledge society. Researchers are needed on the socioeconomic value of public domain information and open access systems. So in conclusion, and looking beyond Geneva, it is to be hoped that this first phase of the WSIS in Geneva will mark an initial step toward more universal and equitable information and knowledge society. Science and scientists have a crucial role to play in the development of this society, and we fully recognize the need to engage with other stakeholders to ensure that what develops is truly to the benefit of the global community to which we all belong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Lubchenko. I think you highlighted a few very important issues like the history of ICTs being a product of scientific entrepreneurship. The second one, which I find personally very interesting, is the challenges the scientific community has to face these days. And thirdly, very important, education and its relationship to the continuity of science. I think in a very complementary way you have sort of added to the first presentation, and I'm looking now forward and giving the floor to Minister Brito from Mozambique for the next presentation. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Director General of UNESCO, distinguished members of the panel, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to participate in this round table addressing an important topic such as science, information society, and the Millennium Goals, Agenda for Action. It is a very challenging topic, just by the complexity of the concepts it addresses. Science conglomerates a complex web of information, experiences, theories, and thoughts. Society brings the rich diversity of cultural, social, and economical aspirations and achievements. And Millennium Goals refers to the worldwide movement in direction to a common vision and commitment. I will not attempt to present an elaborated speech, but rather share with you some ideas, challenges, and opportunities that we discuss when we design and implement our development plans in my country, Mozambique. Changing domestic and external conditions produce new challenges and new opportunities at the national, regional, and global levels. We need to reduce the levels of poverty in our countries. We need to answer the aspirations of our people that want to build a prosperous tomorrow, a future of individual and collective success. We all agree that knowledge as a means of production is becoming more and more important. In order to avoid marginalization of the developing countries in the new dynamics of the world development, we need, therefore, to construct knowledge societies. This means that we need to invest in the development of scientific knowledge and in the production and appropriation of technology in an inclusive way, so that all are simultaneously agents and beneficiaries of the development process. For this, we need adequate and